And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for O'MearaCast featuring Marcus Serta. Without further ado, let's bring him in here. America's favorite P1 listener, Mr. Marcus Serta.
Live from the Green Mountain Studios in Vermont, this is O'MearaCast with a special edition of O'MearaCast. But first, let me introduce my co-host, Steve Mermelstein.
Hey now.
And he really wanted to be in here because we have some special guests. This is a big interview. Steve's favorite show on the More Broadcasting Network, the host of Cake and Cookies, Katie Von Herman. Hello, Katie.
Oh, hi. I was waiting for Rob because Rob doesn't let me talk all the time. I was waiting for him to point at me.
I did.
Well, we know Rob is there too. Rob is the co-host and the second man in the Cake and Cookies lineup. Katie is the star.
She is. And if to keep things easy, let's just refer to her, as I do backstage, KPFVH.
It actually would be KFPVH.
I got to update my Post-it.
KMFPV. Never mind.
You put the MF right in there.
Hey.
Sounds like some bad insurance.
The worst.
Or an accounting firm.
Well, you guys, really from the get-go, Cake and Cookies has shot off like a rocket. In the first weeks, you guys were in the top 10 on iTunes. That was just blow your mind fantastic. And you guys have maintained a strong standing in the iTunes podcast comedy list above the Mike O'Meara Show for almost 10 weeks. Now you're kind of fighting for position up there.
Well, that all stops. That all stops after episode 13 because we got nothing this week.
Yeah. And also, first, let's not let Mike know that.
Yeah, this is the secret part of the podcast. And also, I don't
think anyone was more surprised than we were.
Very, very shocked. I didn't even think our first podcast would go up, and Oscar said that he thought we were ready. So I was very, very excited.
No, we did. That was our practice show.
That was our practice show. One thing that you need to keep in mind, though, is that we only go up once a week, so I think there is a sudden flurry of downloads that gives a sort of a false pregnancy positive when we spike on the charts. And the O'Meara Show, since it is on every day, that's more of a steady ride. So I think the statistics lie.
You're going to dilute your audience a little bit if you have a daily show as opposed to our weekly madness.
The one time that we were new and noteworthy, I just wanted to end the whole thing.
I did too. we're number 4. We got to stop.
Yeah, I got a screen cap. That's all I needed. That's why I did this.
It'll never be. And iTunes tweeted about us.
That was the weirdest thing.
Oh, I was like, how did they? And as if they had listened to it, put a quote in the tweet from the show, and I was like, holy cannoli.
And it was a quote from Katie. I was not mentioned.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Not sorry.
That's what happens when you're the straight guy.
Are you?
So much to be revealed on today's show. Rob.
Oh, yes, it's going to be one of those shows.
The tell-all. But, Rob, we've gotten to know you so well from the Mike O'Meara Show. When you guys started doing the show, and I know that your tagline for the show is to help us feel better about our lives, but you doing the show, what did you think about taking it a step further? You share quite a bit on the Mike O'Meara Show. What did you think you were going to bring to Cake and Cookies?
I thought that best case scenario, it was get Oscar off my ass.
He's been bugging us to do a show for a long
time. And at one point, and this is true, at the Mike O'Meara Show TMOS More Broadcasting Christmas party this year, Katie actually pulled me inside and said, do you really want to do this? Because you seem to be dragging your feet. And the honest answer is, yeah, I was dragging my feet because this is unlike anything I'd ever done before. We've done all content included, nearly 1,400 episodes of the Mike O'Meara Show if you include bonus and premium content. But very few times have I sat down and been first chair on a podcast that isn't like a music show, and it wasn't with Oscar because Mike was taking an occasional day off or something like that. This was a new step for me. I had never done anything like this before, and I, in my mind, had absolutely set myself up for failure. And so I was nervous to give it a spin. I think one of the first steps that made me think we could do it dates back to when we were planning the State Theater show, the second one, and we had a Skype meeting. Katie and I did, and
That's when we first started almost I don't want to say practicing, but like all of our phone calls, like whenever we would have to talk to each other or anything, we would always just sort of see who could make each other laugh first.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what it is. And when I realized that we should have been talking about set design and we did 20 minutes on the fact that dogs think socks are like crack.
Yeah, we call the laundry room Presley's crack den.
So yeah, that's when I began to feel that yes, we could do it. And it was never me thinking that Katie wasn't a perfect fit or a great partner or someone who could do it. I just wasn't sure that I was the right person for the job. And it turned out that it's working with Katie is so much fun. She makes it very easy. Sounds like a kiss-ass answer, but it's true. It's very easy for us to do this. That's why our 60-minute shows oftentimes go 90 minutes.
Oops.
Well, I mean, it's no surprise to me. There's a reason that there's a group out there called the Rob Mob. I mean, you have a following. But I found it interesting because, again, you are coming from the Mike O'Meara Show where you share a lot of what's going on in your life, but now you're coming to another show sharing more about your life. And I was like, could I learn more about Rob? And I actually do. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, I get this wonderful little voice called Katie Von Herman, who shares just the most hateful messages at the beginning of every show that make me laugh my ass off.
I try. To be clear, there's very few things in the world that I hate. So it's a struggle.
Yet magically you seem to come up with one a week.
It's shocking.
It is. It truly is.
Now, Katie, your part in this, I mean, if I remember correctly, and this kind of goes back to what Rob was saying, at the Christmas party, wasn't it Mike that kind of said, hey, there's going to be a cake and cookies? He kind of popped it on all of us. Was that a surprise to everybody?
It was before that. That he, because it was talked about before the State Theater show.
It was because we announced it at the State Theater show. And
right.
You had dipped your toe. We won't bore you with details, but Katie had dipped her toe with a couple other podcast efforts,
and it didn't go bad. It didn't go well. It was very, very bad.
And I think that if you're going to do something and you sit down and you spend an hour with someone and there is no chemistry, if there is zero chemistry, you can maybe fake it for an hour. Mm-hmm. But after you do 2 or 3 episodes, you really can't fake it. It's either there or it's not.
Yeah, no, and let's be clear. When you say dipped my toe, I did one.
True.
And was like, this isn't for me.
Who did you do the one with?
Oh, no, I did too.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that one.
You blocked it, huh?
I did. I forgot about that one. Uh-oh. Yeah. We won't mention names.
No need to name names.
No.
But they didn't come off the way I think Katie envisioned them when they began. And when we started ours...
To be clear, I had no vision, but it certainly wasn't what I...
But you corrected that when you were 23. We learned that last week.
26, but yes.
26, legally blind.
Yes.
But when we sat down to do it, it felt very natural. It felt very right. And especially, there's certain aspects that vary week to week, but when we're down here and husband Dan and wife Carrie are here, it really has a really loose and fun feeling.
Yeah, it's just, and then to be honest, I don't know that people realize this. Most of the time when Dan comes with me and Carrie's home from work, we always wind up like having dinner together. Mm-hmm. After we record the show, we all just sit down and we'll talk for hours. Like we just have a good time.
Yeah, it is. It's a good mix, and we all get along.
It's about 6 people shy of a supper club.
Oh, that's sad. So sad.
Now you say that, but I've also heard Dan napping while you guys are doing the show.
He was tired.
And sometimes the show isn't quite as dynamic as we hope.
Well, I mean, you have to understand, Dan and Carrie have gotten like our shtick
forever,
all day, every day. Yeah. Like eventually they get bored with both of us.
Yeah, not even Babe Ruth hit a hit every time. All right, sometimes they just don't sizzle, Marcus.
I understand. Now, Katie, you've been around the Mike O'Meara Show for very long because obviously you were over at
WJFK.
Thank you very much. WJFK, and you've been very helpful. You were a big help in organizing the last OMearaCon, and so you've kind of been behind the scenes as a supporter, as a helper in all those areas. What's the difference? How do you feel now that you're out in the forefront and now you're a celebrity of more broadcasting?
I like to clap for celebrities.
Ooh, okay, that one. I wouldn't say that I was a celebrity ever. And then, did Steve laugh at me?
For the first time. I think his headphones just started working.
Oh, okay. But it is a little bit different. On JFK, it was really interesting the way that I got sort of pulled in to be on the air. When the whole show came back to the Fairfax station, I was in studio for a little bit, just trying to get everyone acclimated to how everything worked. That all the systems were different.
Yeah.
So,
for example, and I don't want to jump in on your story, but to clarify, when we were in the Rockville studios, we were run exactly like a network show. When we went to commercials, we just went quiet for, I guess then it was 9 minutes and 40 seconds.
36.
9:36 for commercial because of the jingle. So we would just go quiet for 9:36, and then when 9:36 was up, we would start the next portion of the Don and Mike show. When we came back to Fairfax and to WJFK to do the terrestrial version of the O'Meara show, commercials were being inserted at that time. I didn't know how to run that commercial setup because when I left Fairfax, there were cart machines.
Yeah.
When I came back, it was all computerized.
It was like touch screens. So,
and I probably could have figured it out, but I didn't have a great want to do it. And I asked if someone could.
Rob, are you saying out loud that you might have been a little bit lazy about it?
No, I was just hesitant to grab technology, not a fan.
I love technology.
She lives for it, yeah. I love technology.
Rob would have been happier with a reel-to-reel machine and a record player.
I would have liked it when the commercials used to come pressed to 45s. That's what I wanted to do.
So I had to be in studio essentially to show Rob how to run machines and systems that he wanted no part of.
Commercial machine. How you run this commercial machine?
Commercial machine.
When we went to commercials for the run of the O'Meara show, all I would do was hit a button. There was a big button that might as well have been labeled dummy that was put in the board, and that would start the commercials. And at that point, Katie would take over for the next, 10 minutes. And
right. And it's essentially because even though the commercials are a certain amount of time and everything else, you still had to back time to make sure that you were correct for the network. And so to do that within like the systems without carts where you can't like shave off, and overlapping elements and everything to, figure it out.
And to be fair about my laziness, I was co-hosting at the time as well. I had other things I was doing during the show.
Yes. Yeah. But apparently I would make comments and, all kinds of things. And the way that Mike brought me into the show was he saw me in the hallway one day and he was in a great mood and he's just bouncing along. He's like, "Hey, Katie, how you doing?" And I responded with, "I'm filled with hate." and he was like completely taken aback and he goes, "Okay, we're going to talk about this today." And that was the first, and I had a really bad day. I worked at a bookstore before I would come into the Mike O'Meara show, and I'd had a really bad day. So that time, I was in the studio to run the systems, but he was like, "So, had an interesting altercation with Katie in the hallway today." And then he made me talk about it. And he's like, "You think you can do this every day?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I can totally hate stuff every day."
Katie, you've got a great history of jumping onto industries at the right time. Bookstores, terrestrial radio. What's your next move?
Well, then the restaurant that I met Dan at.
Oh, that's right. Gone. So she's very forward-thinking, Marcus and Steve Mermelstein.
Well, she's been very steadily a great social networker on Google Plus, too, I've heard.
Also gone.
I seriously, I'm so bad at Facebook and everything else. I didn't know it was gone.
Yeah, Google minus, actually. Yeah.
Google minus.
Oh, it's so sad. Before I let it go, though, when you're talking about Rob not understanding the machines and needing your help, Katie, do you really think that Rob lacked the ability, or was it Rob making up an excuse to keep you close?
Well, first of all, he did have to learn. So on top of that, I was a person who trained most of all of the new people, new hires and interns and everything on how to run the board.
Did you not train Matt Bloom? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she trained Ponyboy how to be exceptionally quiet.
Now that he didn't learn from me.
I know. She trained him how to run board because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So I had experience doing that. Also, they wanted someone that could be a little more professional and rise up to the Mike O'Meara show. So they weren't just going to, I think, stick any random board op intern in there.
Yeah.
The dreaded weekender.
Also, I had to censor them.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
So I had a couple of reasons for being in there. But then when it got down to the point that the program director realized that Rob knew how to run the equipment and everything and that we were having fun, then they moved me to another studio to censor them. So it was like you can't do your job and like have fun. So
Right.
you have to, that came out a little differently than I meant, but I had to go actively listen in another room and then come in and help get things ready for commercial breaks and stuff.
Which means I had to focus on making her laugh in shorter periods of time, just commercial breaks.
Oh man, and we drove Mike crazy.
He hated it.
He hated it. When we would like have a really good day of just making each other laugh, he would get up and leave the studio.
He really wasn't fond of it.
He's like, and you two are having fun back there. And
Because keep in mind, the entire industry was dying around our ankles. It was like the end of it was right before the intermission of Gone with the Wind. Atlanta was on fire.
Yeah.
And we were laughing.
and everybody was like just trying desperately to hold on to their job.
Yeah, just get through the day. And, we laugh on the show and, me, I'm so happy, la, la, la. But that's my knee jerk. I mean,
Same here.
It is very, very apparent to us that the entire industry was dying. So if we could get a laugh out of it, it made the day go a little better. Mike didn't handle it the same way. But
Right.
on the other end, it all came out okay.
But I think I can also say that at that time, not just with the Mike O'Meara show, but with just most of the people at the station, that sort of, ship's going down in flames.
Mm-hmm.
We're just hanging on. We've got our life jackets on and, we're doing the best that we can. We're just waiting for a helicopter to come pull us out of the water. And I think that actually brought us all closer.
I agree. But not as a station, but as a show.
As a show. And then I think also like with Oscar and Chad.
Yeah.
I mean, that was real. Like
Very real.
Those moments together. That especially.
Now, did any of your goofiness off mic, Rob, throw you off when the mics got turned on?
I've often been accused of narrowcasting. And I think when Katie was in the studio, there were times that jokes were made that might not have played as well to the general audience, but I was trying hard for one particular laugh.
Yes.
And I have been called on that before. I've tried to make that better. But yeah, sometimes, but also if someone...
Mike would actually like go on a rant every once in a while about how like your jokes were only funny to me and that's not fair to the rest of the audience.
Not fair to the audience. I do remember that.
Yes.
Yeah. But as a kid, if you sit a kid in a room with no other kids he knows, chances are he's going to behave.
Right.
But if he's in a room with his best friend, someone who can make him laugh and someone that he can make laugh, that's when the shenanigans happen. So yeah, it's sometimes a little tougher if Katie and I are trying to, play nice and be well behaved in a setting. But if it's just her and I, a lot of times it isn't exactly that way. Luckily now Cake and Cookies is entirely based on shenanigans and misbehavior.
Yes, and really just making ourselves laugh.
That's it. I'm just pleased other people seem to like it.
It's shocking to me, actually. I thought we'd get like
shocked.
4 people and they'd be related to me.
All of us. And it wouldn't be Carrie. She's sick of it.
Were you also trying to make McBride laugh?
You can't do that.
No.
You can't do that.
Please. I can't believe we were going through this whole interview. It was going so nicely, and then you brought up McBride.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you, Steve?
Yeah, Steve Mermelstein.
He's always trying to ruin my show.
Well, keep trying, Steve.
Okay.
I know. Let's talk a little bit about. This show is, like I said, it's on fire, and I think one of the biggest things.
Those are the worst words you could have chosen.
I just used an entire analogy about fire, about ending terrestrial radio,
Oh, man.
and now our show is on fire. How sad.
It's on fire in a positive way, I think one of the biggest reasons are the puppies.
That's it. The whole thing is the dog voice. I don't even need to be here.
I don't either.
Well, Rob, I called.
I'm Mr. Marcus.
Hi, Presley. The other day, I called up Katie to say, hey, I'd really like to talk to you guys on O'MearaCast, and I thought Presley answered the phone.
Or did you just catch Katie when she was sleeping?
No, I told you I didn't have a voice.
Oh, the allergies.
I didn't have a voice for like 2 days this week, and apparently if I go slightly silent or my voice is failing me, I sound like the dogs.
We actually, I think that is the niche that we are fulfilling in the world of podcasting, because there's shows about everything except people that try to talk like dogs, and that's really what we've cornered the market on. And that came almost by accident on one of the days that Katie came over and we were sort of planning out, and I didn't have a second mic in my basement studio, so I had to juggle some stuff. We want to make sure the room sounded okay. And she found out that Carrie and I have a voice that we use for Linus. It mostly is Carrie's voice, but I can do it if need be in a pinch. And she says, "You have dog voices? I have dog voices."
They're so different, though. Linus's
very, very
voice
different.
is so much different than Judd and Presley's voice.
Very different personalities.
Yes, they are.
So when we started doing that, and we put that right into the first show, and I thought, I don't know if people are going to go for this.
Apparently, everyone somewhere deep inside them has a dog voice.
Has a dog voice. And so that was...
Or a cat voice.
I really, really thought, I said, this is really what we're doing for a living? Come on. This can't be right.
I keep thinking about it. Like, I feel like Judd has to visit the show at least once a week. But for the most part, I'm wondering when people will tire of him.
Yeah, I agree, and we have to use him sparingly, I believe. But you'll be pleased to know that in episode 13, which we will tape following this magnificent 60-minute styled interview, Morley, what's going to happen is Judd will be in the mailbag because Judd actually got a letter.
See, and this is why I think Judd is, if anyone in the Von Herman family household could be called a celebrity, it would be Judd.
I agree.
I don't think it's me.
And it's the way he carries himself.
It is.
Yeah. Just the other night,
all
he was
floppy.
Well, he was in PetSmart making it rain.
He's like, all the bitches love me.
Oh, and that's the other thing that makes the show work is Katie's laugh.
Right.
It is really and truly the best laugh on the radio. I turned on.
It's a little scratchy today.
I turned on KCJJ yesterday to see if we were streaming, which we were, because I don't always listen, but I like to check and make sure Steve hasn't gone back on his word. So
he would let you know first.
I don't know.
Over text.
Yeah, he signed the contract to remove my show. Then he told me.
Well.
So sometimes the order doesn't work in the way it ought to. But I swear to you guys, I turned on KCJJ yesterday afternoon, and when the stream clicked on, all I heard for 6 seconds was Katie laughing. That's it. And I said, right now, this is the only thing on KCJJ. But I stayed with it. I love her laugh, and I think it is really one of the strongest things about the show.
When I've never told anyone this. I certainly haven't mentioned it on a show at any time.
What's that?
When I was in middle school, I was made fun of for my laugh.
Why?
I was told that it was too loud, that I sounded like a machine gun, and it was just so out there. Because for me, when I laugh, it's consuming.
Yeah.
I can't stop. I could, but you'd probably have to put your hand over my mouth.
Exactly.
They were just clearly jealous.
Sure.
Okay, and that's the first thing that I would classify as a sloppy pass.
And not when no one was jealous of me when I was in middle school. Woo-wee. It's a rough patch.
2.5 feet tall, legally blind, and a most intoxicating laugh. She was the queen of 7th grade.
Oh, no.
Really?
No. Oh, my God. I was a pariah.
Well, thank God that's behind you.
Thanks. You didn't mean that at all.
I did. I meant every word of it.
Crap.
All right. Let's get back on script.
It's definitely a very unique laugh, and it really puts a great highlight on the show.
Yeah.
Now, going back to the dogs real quick, do you think there's any chance that we're going to hear a conversation between the dogs and Linus, between Presley and Linus, a little back and forth?
I think it could happen, but I think really to give you guys how it needs to be, Carrie has to be here. Mm-hmm. That would be like me doing Charlie. I could affect a Charlie voice, but it would be me doing an impression of Charlie.
Right. And Carrie's Linus voice is awesome.
As a matter of fact, you got a smattering of it, I think 2 episodes ago when the show opened. She said, I'm going to eat the Easter Bunny.
I'm going to eat the Easter Bunny. honey.
So that was the Linus voice. But yeah, as far as
I'm gonna get
it.
I can't do it either, but it's kind of how it
A
sounds.
playlet could happen, but it has to be organic. Dogs are more about improv than scripted material.
I think you mean impulse.
That's right. But yeah, it could happen. It could happen.
Well, they have a lot of conversations, and I'm not used to, when I listen to the show, obviously.
You're not used to hearing dogs talk? Shocking.
I know.
Have growing up.
I'm just used to them laying around and sleeping all day, and then occasionally maybe grabbing some food. And then if you get one that's really ill-mannered, farting in the middle of the living room and emptying the place out.
You see, I think dogs. I really wish dogs could talk, and my mom's dog Reddy really does almost talk.
No, Presley is actually she's very, very vocal.
Vocal, right? And Linus, he will whimper, and I can look, and I can sort of see what he's thinking. Are you guys? You're not dog people?
I have 2 dogs, and one is always trying to talk to me. I swear.
What are the breeds, Steve?
Shetland sheepdogs.
Ah.
Oh, they're smart.
Very
do they
smart.
do they try to herd you or herd each other?
All the time. Each other and me. And, as soon as they see my shoes come out, they know I'm going out. One will try to grab a shoe and run off with it. And, they do all kinds of games like that.
They know. That's not a game.
They're trying to control you, Steve.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, what kind of pets are there in the Serta household? Does Celine have dogs?
Yeah, actually, no. We have 3 cats, and I was going to ask you about your hate for cats because you're obviously dog people.
Well, no, I'm not a cat hater. As a matter of fact, I got a cat when Carrie and I married. The marriage came with a cat, Molly. That was a great cat. But when we talked to the kids were always wanting to have a dog. And I had a dog growing up, and I also had a cat growing up. So it just seemed like a dog was a better fit. I don't hate cats. Dogs, I think they're more rewarding. Mm-hmm. I think they offer a little more, but also cats.
They're a lot more work, too.
Cats are a lot less work, so there's also that.
Yeah, I like the self-sufficiency of the cats, but our 3 cats, very distinct personalities. They came with the marriage. So in order for me to have Elise in my life, I had to bring the cats with. And we've got one, his name is Itchard. And he is like a dog. He likes to cuddle with you, and he sleeps on Elise's face in the middle of the night.
Hey, look at that. That's learned behavior.
My eyes would never open again.
Now, Itchard, do you call
I have a little bit of a cat allergy.
If it's Itchard, can you, for short, call him Ick?
He's called Itchy, but his full registered name is Itchard because
How did you get Itchard?
He was found covered in fleas. Elise's 3 cats are all rescues, and
that's awesome. That's cool.
Rob and I definitely promote the rescue dogs. Mm-hmm. All of our dogs are rescues.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know Carrie also a rescue.
We also have a Molly here in the house. She is the black cat in the family, and Molly is a total bitch. And then there's Liza, named after Liza Minnelli. And
that's terrific.
It's great because not only do you have this beautiful white and kind of calico-colored cat, kind of a mixed color.
Mm-hmm.
But
when she's not wearing sequins.
That's right.
Exactly. But she has Liza Minnelli's personality. It's bipolar. She will look at you and love you, and she will perform for you, and then she will turn around and hiss at you.
That's because your cat lives in the shadow of its more talented mother.
I will say, there are certain breeds that I'm less fond of. There are 2 Cocker Spaniels that live down the street from us, and their names are, I am not joking, Joan Collins and Elizabeth Taylor.
Well, that's fabulous.
And their parents used their full names. Come here, Elizabeth Taylor. Come here.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
Wow. Good for them.
And they're yippy and awful. And
see, because a Cocker can be a good breed if it's properly trained and not named
and not treated
after someone from Dynasty.
Right.
A Cocker can be good for some people. I'm not into them.
You're not into them? Me neither.
Not my thing. Sorry for Dan. Elise would like to have a dog in the house, but my house is very small. I don't have the palatial estate that Rob has. So
sure, the sprawling Spiewak acres.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there's no way I'm putting a dog into this mix.
Or the children to force into the dog walks.
The dog walks, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my son being 17 17, my daughter being moved out, I don't have the slave labor anymore to help take care of pets.
You're past the point.
Well, you know what? Essentially, neither do we. Because I say to the kids, you need to walk the dog today. Okay. 10 hours later, did you walk the dog? I forgot.
I let him out back.
Yeah, I let him out back to the 18 square feet of dog poop covered grass. He frolicked. Okay, great. It's not the same. These are the kids that are after me and promised up and down they would do everything to take care of the dog, and they just don't do anything. So, you know what? It's probably best. Keep your bitchy cats, and you'll be fine.
Now, Katie, being around the Spiewak family, and speaking of the kids specifically, you haven't started your family yet. There's been some hints that maybe, possibly, maybe in your future, who knows? But do you, in hanging around the Spiewak family, is it a deterrent or is it actually something that encourages you to start your family?
And I think he wants you to focus on the kids and not the parents.
Right. I think Robert and Julia are two of the best kids I've ever met in my life.
Oh, shucks.
And that would be a pro factor. And Dan and I have actually talked about it. And the problem with that is then we go out in public
Yeah.
where there are so many more kids. And then we're like,
Of all different varieties, sizes, and behaviors.
back to the BC.
Yeah, yeah. It's my kids are pretty good.
You have great kids.
If nothing else, they drive me crazy. They drive me up a wall. But
well, that's because they're yours.
I always am very proud of the fact that they're respectable around grown-ups.
Mm-hmm.
When spoken to by a grown-up, they will look them in the eye and reply with a clear, loud voice. They're not mumblers, and they're not, glorious in social settings, but also they're not impolite and they're not awkward. And I'm very proud of that because I've always tried to treat my kids, never used like baby talk or anything. I talked to them like they were grown-ups when they were 2. Mm-hmm. And I think they benefit from it. And they're both very popular among their friends at school. And with some isolated incidents, they've done very well with teachers too. Mm-hmm. And that's, there are bad teachers, I'm sure. But I think when there is a good relationship, that's a two-way street. The kid has to be open and respectful for the teacher the teacher to get the most out of it.
But to be honest, I mean, Dan and I, obviously just because of our ages, when we first got together, you have the kid talk and everything, and we'd always been on the fence about it. But I do think once his sister had their first baby, and then we started coming to the Spiewak house every week, I think that sort of pushed us more in that direction.
Yeah.
But, for right now, we're still just sort of wait and see what happens.
Are you still not preventing?
Right.
Excellent. So it could happen very soon, guys. Little Ichard von Herman.
I guess it could. I'm 36, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you have a timeline? Is there?
No.
It takes about 9 months, doesn't it?
No, I have no time.
Oh, not that kind of timeline.
So you're not feeling the clock ticking or anything like that?
No, I don't care. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If it does, it does.
Oh boy, this is going to be a wonderful podcast to play back on their 15th birthday.
No, I'm kidding. Obviously, like if it happened, then we have 9 months to freak out about it.
Is Dan more encouraged by it than you?
To be honest, I think we're on the same page.
I get that actually when I talk to them. I see that.
Yeah, it's not because we actually we've talked about it as couples. Mm-hmm. In our little after show dinner meetings or whatever.
Yeah.
Dan and I think we are really, really on the same page. If one of us started pushing the other one in any certain direction, whether it be yes or no, I think the other one would be like, all right, well then, sure.
Yeah.
We're just both at that sort of meh.
I think you are really both taking it at a really, I can only use how Carrie and I went through it, but a real healthy thing. You're not if you set yourself up with a timeline, you're setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah. And then also if I don't know, neither of us deal well with pressure in that kind of respect, and we're still newlyweds. We will be married 2 years in October, so on some level we're still just having fun practicing.
Practice is the best.
It's just a matter of if it happens, okay, we'll deal with it. together. And that's, we're at an age where I think we can be sort of leisurely about it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And I will say that on every show, we get the sense that you don't deal with pressure well, because it appears that on every show, at some point, you have to make a run to the bathroom.
Well, there again, we really do shoot for a 1-hour podcast. We really do. We have never even gotten close. And there have been episodes that started before. They do tend to sometimes spin out a little around minute 90.
Every once in a while, we're like, well, we might have to edit some.
But, we really love what we do, and once we get started, we love talking, but she's got this tiny bladder.
Yeah, I can get through and see, I've already set myself up for failure. I've had about a half of a Gatorade while we're doing this show. So as soon as we start, we're going to record Cake and Cookies. Once we're done here, it's on. Like I'm thinking we might have to do 2 or 3 breaks today.
Of course, and that'll be fine. What I like, and Dan is not with us today because he is also.
I mean, he didn't die.
Oh no, you were so unclear then.
You said he.
No, I'm kidding. No, Dan does not here in the studio with us because he's at home nursing allergies. By allergies, of course, I mean a hangover. No, he actually is suffering from allergies. But one of my favorite things is usually about halfway through the second break, we try to lay in a couple bottles of beer so we're ready to go for the whole show. But Katie will look over to Dan and take an empty beer bottle and sort of wave it in the air like the Statue of Liberty. And if he doesn't pick up on it, she whispers, as if the microphone's not in front of her, and says, Dan, I would like a beer. So when we start putting them away at that rate, something's got to give.
Yeah, and it's my pea-sized bladder.
And it's her little pea-sized bladder. And you can take that as a pun if you like.
Oh, I get it. I didn't even mean it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I noticed when he was sleeping, you wouldn't even give him a break. You had to wake him up because you needed that beer so badly.
He's got one job.
Keep this lady hydrated.
Jesus. If I had done that with my wife, she would have just given me the finger and told me to get it myself.
And in reverse situations, I would get him a beer.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so nice.
But he is neither new nor notable on iTunes, so get a beer, damn it.
I'm sitting here with headphones on. I'm tethered to a desk, literally.
Yeah.
I can't get over there myself, so
the woman needs it. Help her out.
Honestly, it usually coordinates when he wants one for himself.
Oftentimes it does.
Now, when he was asleep, though, slacking off on the duties.
Yeah, and that hurt my feelings. Because even if the show sucked that bad, if nothing else, I'm a loud talker. Don't fall asleep while I'm talking.
Well, no, that's what makes me jealous about his sleeping.
You can do anything?
Oh, you can sleep anything, anywhere, and clearly in any position.
Yeah, he was sort of planking on a chair. It was an amazing sight. It really should have been the show picture.
It really should have been.
Yeah, well, there's another thing we screwed up,
Sorry, I had to wake him up to get a beer.
That's all right. Tethered or not, you still make the trip to the Elvis bathroom. So let's talk about Elvis for a moment, because you walk into Elvis shrine at the Spiewak house.
Beautiful eyes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Katie, are you ever surprised?
I had to reorganize the Elvis shelf yesterday because one of the hanging Elvis ornaments is heavier than the others. And because what happens is I've got a standing a wall rack where I have all my stereo components, and the top shelf is where the bulk of the Elvis tchotchkes, G-Jaws, and the like, and whatnot are.
One earthquake, and it's all gone.
It's all gone. It's the end of an industry. And there is one ornament that hangs from the ceiling. There's actually 5 or 6, but one is particularly heavy. And when the kids start running around upstairs, and the ceiling literally starts shaking, and it's like this, I'm like, you're going to have to go to it. And then you hear, boom. Because what's happened is the actual vibrations of the kids playing with the dog have loosened the push pin that holds this ornament, and the ornament comes crashing down, moving everything around. So what I had to do was actually put a wall anchor in my ceiling to hang the ornament. And when I did that, I reorganized the stuff because I wasn't happy with the placement of the bottle of Elvis Presley coconut vodka. So I've changed the things around a little bit and put a new battery in the anniversary clock. You see, an Elvis shelf.
Hey, Rob.
Yes?
That's really great. Marcus, would you like to ask your question?
I'm sorry, I get all excited.
See, this is what I was kind of getting to here, Katie. I mean, when you walk into that house, there's a moment when you have to feel a little, I don't know, maybe creeped out because there's just so much Elvis going on that I expect, and we know that Rob sleeps naked, but
Okay, I wasn't even going to bring it up this week. Why do you people always bring that up? It's natural.
Because I would expect you to be in the white Elvis suit in bed.
If I did, I sleep on my side. I would have the imprint of
so itchy.
Yeah, I'd have an imprint of an eagle in my arm. I can't have that.
Peacock on your chest.
Exactly.
The only thing that is somewhat creepy about everything down here is very, I think, tastefully done. As well,
sure. As fires go, this isn't very hot.
I am such a liar.
Yeah, I know. You want to start again?
Yeah,
right.
Let's ask about the Elvis bust on that note.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm headed. I'm staring right at him because why? He's staring right back at me.
Beautiful glass eyes, sort of yellow eyes.
That's the only thing that really creeps me out. Otherwise, it's just because it's not just Elvis memorabilia down here. There's all kinds of like different movie posters, and there's just all kinds of. It's not just Elvis.
I tried to corral the Elvis. Mm-hmm. I tried to give a sense of theme, and because if I spread the Elvis stuff out, then it would really feel like the old lady's parlor, I think. But the fact that it is so centralized, it gives it a little something.
And I would say like coming in second would be maybe Beatles, and then movie paraphernalia.
Yeah, that's about right.
But the only really, truly creepy, awful thing in here is the Elvis bust.
All right, Steve, don't listen to this next question.
Wait, I have a question.
Okay, a follow-up, yeah.
Follow-up. Would one of your Nazi helmets fit on the Elvis bust?
See, I was going to ask if, and I didn't want to really broach the question, but since he went stomping in, who's stepping in, do you think that the Hindenburg piece of the framed piece of the Hindenburg wreckage with the burn marks on it, that's not as creepy as the Elvis bust?
You don't really notice it.
But knowing it?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
All right. The helmet I put away, Steve, by the way. It's not that anymore.
I was going to say, I've never seen the
helmet we put away.
That's good.
Yeah, I think it would look funny on the Elvis bust.
Yeah.
I don't think any helmet would fit on that thing.
That's from Elvis's popular movie, It Happened at the Reichstag.
Oh. In his war days.
Well, I'm not creeped out. I like the fact that you've got that piece of history from the Hindenburg. Now, I understand why it's made fun of, but it's an important piece of history, especially from a radiophile's perspective. That audio is a must-listen. So I totally get that. And I think if I were in your basement, Rob, I think I'd spend more time around those microphones because there's history there as well.
If you were in my basement, Marcus, I would be calling the police. I'd say, why is this man in my basement?
Well, on that particular note, I thought Mike at the Christmas party that I was attending was going to call the police on me for some things that I said on the show. But on the last Cake and Cookies, you said the same thing to a listener.
What did I say?
Here it is.
I want to say the most sincere thanks to Chris Johnson. It's so thoughtful.
I haven't seen you quite light up like that. Like, forget the lights on the starboard, but the lights in your eyes right now.
It's so amazingly cool. And as I said to Chris Johnson when I told him that I received it, that on this week's Cake and Cookies, Chris, I will blow you. So
I think you might have to beat that out.
I will, but I needed to say it.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, we probably should bring the show to an end.
I think we're at a good ending point now.
Yeah, because apparently the next 15, 20 minutes of my life are going to be spent with Chris Johnson.
Yeah, they're dedicated.
And
if he's lucky, 15 to 20. No, honey, in my experience, you've got like 5 to 7.
This is why the other day when Rob was texting with me and he said, "You're my man," I said, no, Chris Johnson's your man.
And by the way, it was very thoughtful of Chris to send that gift, but I did follow through on my offer and nothing, not even flowers, not even a phone call. Thanks a lot, Chris. I feel so used.
Get used to it.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
I can't brush my teeth enough.
Well, Rob, that segment had a special place in Steve's heart.
Why?
Because Steve had that toy.
I did, yeah.
Isn't it the best?
It was a lot of fun, especially chasing the dog around with it.
But it is that was such a very, very thoughtful gift, and that comes from really, and we give each other a hard time that neither one of us likes the segment. But I think my favorite thing we do on this podcast is the getting to know you segment where we answer the questions that people send in. Mm-hmm. That is something I so truly enjoy, and it's allowed us several times to spin off in directions we don't expect.
Yeah, and also to learn things about each other that we had no idea.
Because we've known each other forever, but we're sort of taking it to a new level because I didn't know she was so excited about that teddy bear. And I didn't know she was legally blind. So that is really one of my favorite things that we do in this incarnation of this podcast, as if there's been other incarnations. What?
It has the safety of not involving a caller. You have the opportunity to edit them before you actually take it on the show.
We don't edit the questions. We could, obviously, but we don't.
We read them as they are submitted.
Yeah.
The only ones that we really don't go to is stuff that we've already covered or stuff that we deem that's not entertaining.
Yeah, like if someone asked a question that's, essentially someone asked us, how did you two meet? And we're like, well,
that was episode 1. That's all of episode 1.
Just about every episode thereafter on some point, there's a reference. But what is really funny is there are people who they clearly get that we've known each other for a long, long time, but they don't know exactly how, like an incarnation of how we.
Or how we make a living.
Yeah, they don't know what we do.
Right.
So they think that we're like professional comedians or something.
Actually, I'd like to share this while we're with Marcus. I was going to use it.
Do you have it printed out?
I do have it.
Good.
Okay, this is from Brian Reifschneider. Of course it is. He says, "Dear Casey," they don't always say "Dear Casey," but I do love when people write "Dear Casey."
That cracks me up.
I stumbled across your podcast on iTunes. Now this is editor's note. That to me is so wild.
That's the biggest thing for me.
Got to be tens of thousands of podcasts on iTunes, and they stumble on it. That's fine. What are they seeing that's making them want to click on it? Do they think it is about cake and cookies?
I didn't hear a damn thing about icing.
Yeah, I listened to the whole thing twice. Okay, I stumbled across your podcast on iTunes, and my wife and I were hooked immediately. So cool. We hope that if you guys ever consider going on tour, what? That you'd make a stop in Connecticut. Yeah.
What?
Like we're touring, like all of a sudden, good news, we're taking our show on the road.
Yeah, no.
Look at all of the converted dinner theaters in your neighborhood for cake and cookies and the all-you-can-eat buffet.
We're going to open for Kreskin.
So, Brian Reifschneider, I think it's great that you and your wife listen. I love that, but would we consider going on tour and stopping in Connecticut? Got bad news. No, we're not considering it because we don't do that. We've known each other for, nearly 15 years, and we do this from my basement. That sounds so much sadder than going on tour.
Yeah, it does.
But anyway, he does tell us to keep up the crazy, and we appreciate it, Brian Reifschneider. But that is what I really find the most.
It's the people. Actually, I find that interesting, mostly because I think it's more interesting that did you make it?
I did not.
Okay. He threw the paper over my head.
She runs a very strong offense defense for such a tiny girl.
Something for Judd to play with later.
But
Linus, I mean.
The fact that people listened to the show and didn't find us through the Mike O'Meara show, I thought we would get only listeners from the More Network.
Yeah, I definitely consider this as a project as a subset of More Broadcasting, which is a great place to be. And also, really, we joked earlier about Don't Tell Mike. Mike, Oscar, and everyone on the network they've all been so amazingly supportive. It's been very, very nice. Kind words, warm support. The fact that Steve Bridges put us on KCJJ based on one basic pitch call that I called him. He hadn't heard it. And then he listened and he said, yeah, we can use that. And that is another tremendous thrill for me, because I've got a long-standing, obviously, relationship with the folks in Iowa and KCJJ. And it was rather heartbreaking when the Rob Radio was pulled because Steve finally got called on his contract that he signed 5 years ago. But to be back on the KCJJ air, that means a lot to me, too.
Well, I wish that he gave you more love, and whatever contract he needs to sign, he would get TRSS back on the radio, because
that's nice. We're going to do it as a monthly thing. We went back. We did a new episode last Friday,
and it was awesome. I may have played it at my dinner party last night.
Look at you. That's so kind of you.
Dancing ensued.
I missed that so much, more than I thought I did, Marcus, and it was a big thrill to do it again. And I think now that they time shifted it, because the problem is that he had signed a contract to run an afternoon show, and then he was only running the afternoon show Monday through Thursday.
Yeah.
And finally, the people at Westwood One tuned in on Friday, expecting to hear free wings and hot beer or whatever show he's running in the afternoon, and instead they got big-headed DJ, and they said, "Say, isn't that not supposed to be that?"
Yeah.
And his response to him is, "I sign a lot of things. I don't know." And but so we took a few months off, and now when I do the show, at least on the return episode, he ran it in the evening. It started at 6 p.m. Iowa time.
I think it makes more sense.
And I think it does too. I think it's always been an evening show, really.
Especially like Friday evening. That's for me, that's perfect, because that's when I usually stay in on Friday nights, and I like to cook dinner and drink and just have myself my own little party.
We're sort of tied. On Friday nights, I like to drink dinner. So, but it was a good fit, and it was a lot of fun, and we're going to try and do it once a month on KCJJ.
Well, to go back to your earlier comments concerning Mike and Oscar and the comments that they've made to you, there's good reason why they should be complimenting you on the show because of how well it's doing. But at the same time, it's doing so well. Where's the T-shirts?
We prefer people to go topless.
Yeah, and I mean, also, you do have to understand there's a size difference between me and Rob. So
that's true.
It just makes for a bigger order, and then like how large is the logo? It's a whole thing.
Yeah. Also, there's a lot that goes into T-shirtery.
Then it would be called money. We don't have that.
We don't have it.
Yeah.
What we have here is we are a vanity project, essentially, right now. We're the people that pay to have their own book published. And that's cute. That's nice.
Is it cute?
Is it? Half of it's cute. The other is just sort of verbose. But the T-shirts, who knows, maybe someday. And
we do have a great logo.
If anyone wants to take our logo from the Facebook and make a T-shirt, I say do it. Have at it. Promote us any way you want. But don't look for us to be fronting out, the $80, $100, $110 it's going to take to print up T-shirts.
It would probably take more than that, because we have to go. I would require a small.
Right.
And nobody likes to make the smalls.
See, but there are plenty of services online that would do it on demand. It would require you guys to have no inventory.
Go at it, man. Do it.
All
as
right.
soon as you finish your run of OMearaCast T-shirts and Mermelstein in the morning hats, you make the cookies and the cake and cookies T-shirts.
All right, I'll take care of that.
Yeah, get on that.
I'm busy enough with my whole new music show, and that's driving me crazy.
Congratulations, by the way.
He's America's favorite country disc jockey, king of the licorice hats.
Wow, it's something to really get used to. But Rob, I've told you this offline. You are an inspiration to me as a music DJ, and I'm trying to apply some of that. But
which is why it took you 10 years to get a shift.
Exactly. I don't know why they don't appreciate.
Set your sights higher, buddy.
Yeah. They don't appreciate my DJ voice.
You have set the bar low.
No.
They don't appreciate your DJ voice.
Yes, when I talk like this, hey, it's 98.9 WOKO. We are on the air
You
live.
don't do
You
that.
don't do that.
You don't do that.
No, I don't do that.
Okay,
Attaboy.
thank God.
All right, that's good. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. Don't even do that on this show.
I try not to. Now, you read the letter. You said, okay, you're not going to go on the road. That's obvious. There's reasons for that. But I could absolutely see a Cake and Cookies meet and greet. Maybe not the Cake and Cookies con, but a Cake and Cookies meet and greet. When are we going to have that?
I'm free tonight.
I bet Jimmy would let us. I mean, I was at Jimmy's for trivia.
Yeah. No, why did you not? You should have made it. You could have turned that into a meet and greet. You
Well,
could
it
have
was
done
it
that.
was literally a friend of mine from high school, the one that we do trivia with. He goes, just found out there's trivia at Jimmy's Old Town Tavern. Meet you there at 7, and it was 6, and I was like, I'll be there.
Of course, that's all we need to do. No, I would love to do something, some sort of informal meet and greet or something like that. There's nothing stopping us. Although, the show really does stand at this point to promote the mothership, which is, of course, the Mike O'Meara Show,
right,
and more broadcasting. And we don't want to dilute our product, and especially with Mike out of town for the next month or so. When Mike rolls into town, we will be doing events. And so what I envision is...
I always come along.
Yeah, come out and see...
Even before we did this show, I would always go to the meet and greet just because I love everybody.
What I envision is come on out to our latest Mike O'Meara Show event, and you know who else is going to be there? Katie's going to be there from Cake and Cookies. Maybe Mickey makes the trip down or something like that. I like to make them more of a bigger event with add-ons as opposed to seeing them splinter. I want to make it
also,
it's can't miss event.
It's really sad when, Rob and I go out and like 6 people show up.
Didn't want to say it.
No, I knew where you
was going to say it.
Truth.
Didn't want to say it. That is the truth. Much rather see 300 or 400 people come out for the Mike O'Meara Show, and we can say, oh yeah, it was so nice of you to come out to see us too.
Yeah. Don't forget to listen.
Don't forget to listen. Here's it's not a business card, but it's something I wrote on by hand.
Now, how about you streaming? How about getting some video going for the show?
I don't know. What do you think? No, I don't think the show exists as a video podcast.
And here's the thing: like I personally, I did feel enough pressure to speak well. If I had to. I mean, I got my hair in a ponytail. I'm wearing like a T-shirt. If I had to,
no, that's not the problem. She's adorable. It's me. When you're getting me,
we can angle things, and then the camera right.
Oh God, I look so bad on the Mike O'Meara Show, and that's when I try. This is Weekend Rob. This is the last thing you want in some sort of even standard definition video. No, I want you to close your eyes and imagine me in that 3-week stretch of time in 2012 when I was at my skinniest, and that's it. That's the image I want you to have.
With a white jacket.
Or a plaid.
Okay.
Either one. Yeah, always in dinner wear, as I'm wearing right now.
Oh, yeah.
What about with the new high-tech studios, the Mike O'Meara Show studios in D.C.? What about using that studio? I know that you're set up really well in your basement.
This? You've got a lovely studio that you've built, but how about if it would sound a little better? Why don't you do your show an hour away?
It's kind of far.
It is.
I don't know what the relative distance is between you and Katie. Are you guys
emotionally?
It takes about 40 minutes for me to get here.
And it would take her about
45 minutes.
It would take her a little less than that to get to DC.
Yeah, it'd probably take me about 35 minutes to get to DC.
But then it would take me an hour to get to DC. We'd pay for parking, and then we'd finish, and we wouldn't have had the ability to have a refrigerator with cold beer. And I think as we used to say, one of the characters of the Mike O'Meara Show was the living room studio. I think the fact that this show is done in my basement is part of the personality of the show. I like to occasionally hear Linus run by with his jingling
I like
tags.
it when Julia comes down and asks if she can make cookies.
Yeah, I like that.
Dan shakes his head no, and I'm like, hell yeah.
It is.
To be honest, we have a real family atmosphere here, and I wouldn't want to change that. It would be a different dynamic for sure, and I know that we could do it. But I
wouldn't change the thing.
Yeah, it's really good because if something has happened and we want to like call on Carrie to be like, okay, so know what really happened.
Exactly.
You know, she's here. And that's sort of the dynamic that we were going through. Was we wanted it to be about, you know, our families and our lives like that, rather than, you know, we don't want to talk about current events. We don't, you know, unless it's absolutely pertinent.
It's something that really affects us.
Yeah. It's just, we just want to keep it light and fun. And I mean, it's not like you probably shouldn't have your 7-year-old listen to the show.
No, but it's also, I would think it is a lighter, a gentler, a kinder and gentler podcast. And I've got no problem with my kids hearing most of it. There's an occasional double entendre that probably would go, well, not over Julia's head, but would go over Robert's head.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the reasons the show has the vibe that it does, and I really don't want people to think, oh my God, they've really analyzed this to death. But just in passing, I would say a lot of the vibe in the show comes from the fact that it is done in such a comfortable setting.
Well, speak for yourself. I need a better chair.
I know. No one's stopping you.
Well, I think it's great
Hey, I give you a very serviceable task chair.
It is. It is a serviceable task chair.
It is.
It's got to be better than the one that Mike is using in Florida.
Oh, his hard wooden chair?
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like he's stolen from a Catholic
This
school.
one, I at least have a swivel.
Yeah.
So.
Any other plans for the show, or you like it as is? I'm not complaining. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just wondering future plans as we move forward.
Well, we're not real big on, you know, we're just doing it. So do you have any ideas?
Yeah, anything you have, you can submit them.
Please, by all means, because we just do our thing. And
our most common letter, other than please do the dog voices more or get rid of the fat guy, the most common letter we get is more than one a week.
I don't think we could.
And I
just
think
not that funny.
We're not that funny.
I know.
And also, I think that it's whether it is an hour or 90 minutes or somewhere in that neighborhood, about once a week. If you think about having a conversation with a really, really good friend, someone that always makes you laugh, someone that you try to make laugh, if you talk to them for about an hour a week, that's just about right, I think. And since we're not a radio show per se, we're not obviously formatted like a radio show like the Mike O'Meara show.
Right.
It's just two people talking, two people that genuinely like each other. And I think once a week is about right. Yeah,
and I can say that we do on some level plan out the show, and we have pre-production that we put together, and we kind of have a direction for every show, but for the most part, it's organic. Like one topic will lead us. That reminds me, it totally leads us to other places, and I think that's where you get sort of the very friendly. Well, I haven't seen you in a few days, so we have to catch up.
Yeah, I agree.
I think my suggestion would just be more stingers, more jingles. We need one specifically for Katie. Rob, we've got your little singer. We need one for Katie. Katie Von Herman. And
well, the thing is that
nobody can sing Von Herman. Good Lord.
And God, if we put in all the maiden names and everything, we'd have to pay overtime. We need the world's. We would have to triple track it.
It would be bad.
I've noticed you don't use too many elements on this show. And I was always wondering about that. Because you use a lot on TMOS. Like, are you doing that just to get under Mike's skin, or is it?
No. And also, elements are something I really and truly love. Last week, Katie gave me a mini lecture about overplaying elements during Rob Radio, because I will play 4 or 5 in a sequence
in a row.
Right. Fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But on this one, again, the show has a different and the show kind of
if
sets.
If we played music, it would make more sense.
Yeah, but the show also, the topic and whatever topic we're discussing in our relationship kind of sets the tempo of the show. And I don't think you need outside production to do it. But occasionally, I will throw something in that I think is funny or appropriate, but I don't shoehorn it in. It's more of it's like adding a rim shot to a comedy routine as opposed to another joke. If that makes any sense.
And that is one thing that we've done a few times is when we've done, our little bit of pre-production. Okay, this is what I want to talk about. These are the points that I want to get to. Can you load up this song, this particular hook, and just have that ready because it'll work. For instance, when my sister moved out, when O'Dana broke up with me, my sister broke up with me via text to tell me that she was moving out.
Right. Sorry about that.
Oh no, it's fine. It's really okay.
Well, it's okay now. But at the time,
I was heartbroken.
You really were.
I felt like I'd gotten dumped.
And to emphasize it, we had
She's gone.
and I loved it. And
It
Katie
was a great show.
right away, and she says, "This is what I need." And I didn't even realize it was going to work.
I didn't tell him why or anything. I was like, I just need you to pull this up, just the hook. That's it.
And it was great. And and so I mean, it's what you really don't want to do is shoehorn elements where they don't belong for the sake of playing them. And there's also the element about the elements that they're usually funny the first time you hear them, then there's a decay, then there's a decay, then there's a decay, but with repetition, it becomes funny again.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the fun for Matt Bloom on the O'Meara show, that had a really long stretch of no one liking it anymore, but I think it's coming back strong.
Oh, sure.
Expect it, and that whole sequence, coupled with the fact that it pisses Mike off, that's something that I enjoy very much. But there's a lot of layers of bedrock there that makes that funny. To someone to just hear it for the first time, they'd say, okay, that's really not making any sense, and it's not funny at all.
Well, this week, Mike, Rob, you've given some people OCD like me, because this week you played the Smoke song because it was appropriate at the time, but honestly, I was waiting for fun. I was waiting for all the other pieces, and it drove me nuts that you only played Smoke.
Yeah.
But no, I absolutely get where you're going, and I'll say this: listeners have a hard time sometimes differentiating from one show to the other. And Rob, you have your personality, and it doesn't change very much from TMOS to Cake and Cookies, but you are Jingle Boy on TMOS. You're the element guy. You grab songs
But that's also his role.
Absolutely.
Different role, different job.
But as I was saying, it's kind of like in the same way, if you were to open up phone lines on the Mike O'Meara show, there is always some clown who will still ask about the Don and Mike show. Like, let it
They've
go.
asked us about the Don and Mike show.
Yeah.
Right. And they can't let those things go, and I can understand. And so I guess my brain was like waiting for more jingles to bleed over, but I'm sorry for my mistake.
No, there's no mistake. Last week we actually talked quite a bit about jingles.
Yeah.
And it was an exciting conversation for me to actually shoehorn the Dan Ingram sing into a podcast. Maybe first time ever for anybody anywhere. And it is something I genuinely love. But again, talking about them is one thing. Trying to use them as an element is quite another.
And another thing, like, I have to be totally honest, like, Rob and I have been pressured, forced, however you want to call it, to do this show for a long time.
Asked.
It was strongly suggested.
It was very strongly suggested.
That's right.
That's right. So when we first went into it, we talked about it a lot before we ever cracked the first microphone about, okay, are we going to have music? Are we going to play elements? Is this going to be like a radio show? Like we're very conscious of how we wanted to sound.
Yeah.
And we also are very conscious of having goals for the future of how we need to build our rapport. And, today we're recording our 13th show. That's not a lot.
No, it's almost nothing.
So we still are working on, our back and forth. And once that comes, then maybe more things will come. But right now, we're doing good to like read letters on the air. I mean,
I still get excited when Katie shows up on Sundays. It's like, oh, good, she remembered. This is a priority for her as well.
It's usually a text, though, in the morning. what time?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But we're really pleased with what we've got. One thing a lot of people ask us, and we've addressed it on the Cake and Cookies program, the theme song we run, how did we choose it? What's the story behind it? Well, before we were on KCJJ, we had to choose some sort of royalty-free music.
Because not being on a radio station, you technically can't really play music.
Like licensed music, BMI or ASCAP styled stuff. And we were not
without paying for it.
Yeah, and we didn't want to do that.
That's not happening.
So before we were on KCJJ, and if you ever want to really spend a long afternoon in the Valley of Suck, you can do this too. Go into Amazon.com or iTunes and plug in royalty-free music, and you get the worst garbage.
It took us a long time to find the song.
And what we found is this version of Besame Mucho, which is sort of Artie Shaw's arrangement, kind of, changed probably just enough to make it royalty-free.
Yep.
And it was just goofy, retro. It was the first one in maybe 60 songs we listened to where we looked at each other and we said, yeah, that's it.
That works.
And so, and we split the $1.29. And that has been our theme song.
Oh God,
ever
I
since.
still owe you 30
perfect.
cents.
But that is really the only one consistent element that we've had throughout. That and your hate music, which goes way, way back. And
that goes back.
I wouldn't change that for anything.
No, I think that the hateful thought music is spot on.
It's key.
Well, I've got two more questions. You guys have been so generous with your time, and I really appreciate it. But
my pleasure.
Are we going to get started soon?
Exactly. I've got two more, plus my bladder, I think, is needing some emptying.
I feel ya.
Marcus's tiny pea-sized bladder.
That's right. Yeah, well, they're taking out the gall thing next week. That's going to be lots of fun.
Such gall.
We had a conversation about it off the air. I think you're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
Now, will you be selling that on Craigslist? What happens with that?
Oh yeah, ask to take it home.
Yeah, God, you're going to pay for it. God knows you deserve everything.
That's how I keep OMearaCast running. Selling body parts.
I'm harvesting my organs.
Now, for the technical geeks out there, Katie, I'm just curious. Now, Rob, are you using the Heel Heil microphone at home?
No, I am using a beautiful Neumann.
Oh, fantastic. And Katie, what are you using?
I am on a Shure
SM7B.
Yeah.
Oh.
With the big windscreen.
Very nice. It's what Steve and I use. Yep. And I just got the compressor limiter hooked up with a gate because I had to keep Steve's nasal noise off from the show.
Oh, I thought the gate was to make sure Steve wouldn't run out of the yard.
We put a lot of thought into which microphones to use and a whole lot of work into our sound.
Trying to make our sounds match. I've got a thin, feminine voice as it is. So
And what with my booming bass.
Exactly. It's like being in here with Lou Rawls. And so, and that's really the best I could do. That's a 40-year-old reference. Is there anybody with a low voice that I could have used?
Barry White.
Barry White. Also,
because that one's also
James Earl Jones, maybe.
Oh, sure.
But so I have tweaked my EQ for a long, long time. But then when I paired it against Katie, she did tend to sound like she was in the corner making Cinderella's dress. So I backed off on mine a little bit. And
all I hear is Cinderella.
we tried to find a sweet middle spot where we both our voices mesh well together.
Let's make her a dress. We can do it.
So I think that listening back to the most recent episode, I think our voices, they match up nicely when we record, and we don't suffer from the fact that Tech 411, after they each have a couple beers, Oscar and Todd sound alike.
And I don't know that there's anything you could do.
Well, they meet in the middle. They start off the show.
They start off sounding like Oscar and Todd, and then somehow
magically in minute 31, everything is amazing. So if nothing else, if the sound, I mean, we really do our best to optimize the sound, but if nothing else, you'd be able to tell us apart.
But after a few beers, when you can't tell our voices apart either, that's when we had stopped.
Yeah, we did have one aborted show.
Yeah, we did start recording one show and got I personally got so, well, you did too.
I was keeping up.
Yeah.
But you were the one that was talking about burning sage and witchcraft, and that was nowhere in the show prep.
Yeah, somehow, like, I started talking about, like, covens, and I'm still not sure.
At one point,
I was like, oh, we should get some sage and really, we should clean the area, you know, make sure we've got, like, a proper recording area.
it was like 7:30 on a Friday night. Everyone was here, and she was off on that jag, and I looked over at Carrie.
You'd been drinking old
I
fashioned.
had been, but it was enough that when I looked over at Carrie shrugged. Like, I don't know either.
No, and then shortly right after that, like, I made eye contact with you and started shaking my head. No.
Yeah, it is a bad feeling when you truly realize this is like we had jumped off the Empire State Building and there were 40 floors left and everything was going okay, but we knew that the ultimate end was going to be sloppy.
Then that's what happened.
Yeah, so I may go back and revisit that tape.
There's no way it's usable.
All I have to do is type aborted into my search. Because that's how I saved the segment.
Sounds like bonus show material to me.
I don't think so.
Maybe we'll send it out in the Cake and Cookies Christmas card.
True.
There you go. Katie trying
Sorry,
to
Steve.
feng shui the studio there. Last but not least, Rob, you are well known as the king of Facebook social media.
Yes.
But you have not been the biggest social media guy when it comes to cake and cookies.
I hate Twitter. I hate it.
But it's not just Twitter, even on Facebook. You don't seem to really carry the torch for cake and cookies. What's going on?
I try to not oversaturate for a once a week show. I will post the day we record. I will post when I'm getting ready for the show to drop. I'll post for 2 days when the show is on iTunes and it's hot. But there's limited stuff that can be discussed when it's not an ongoing daily thing. Easier to promote something like the Mike O'Meara Show, which has 6 new episodes a week. Right. Maybe I should step on it, or maybe the listeners should also try to chip in.
Well, Katie, what about you?
Lost half of our listeners.
Yeah, Katie, what about you?
I suck at Facebook media.
Even saying it.
Wait a minute. Did she say she sucks at face?
Facebook.
Oh.
Don't disregard the fact that Steve just had his funniest line in 6 weeks. He said you even suck at saying it.
It's true. I think I actually said shuck instead of suck. And I haven't had anything to drink.
Not yet.
No.
But it's
I mean, I can manage like my own page.
When you have
and it stops there.
Yeah, the fan page, it's different. The fan page is different. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like when you put up stuff.
Oh, and then what makes it even worse is, well, you guys know, like when you're the administrator, there's all that stuff at the top.
And I hate scrolling down.
And you have to figure out like what's new and what's like the order of the comments aren't in the right place. Everything is wrong.
Yeah, stupid Facebook.
Oh yeah, and recently Facebook made some updates and changes, so the links don't work right.
Oh, they do not.
Totally messed up. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Twitter, though, for me, I have found for O'MearaCast and promoting the Mike O'Meara Show is a great place to insert yourself into other conversations.
Marcus,
and make people aware.
I thought this was about us. I don't care about you on Twitter. I hate Twitter.
No, I'm just saying it's an opportunity for you to help spread the word more about cake and cookies.
Dan does our Twitter. He does a great job.
He does a terrible job. And I can't figure out how to put the cake and cookie. I can't figure out how to log off and log on my phone.
You forgot your password.
I don't know my password anymore, so I can't. It's.
Is that why you're keeping that really old iPhone? Is because you're afraid that you got a new iPhone, you couldn't get back on Twitter?
Not just Twitter.
Anything.
Like anything.
Wow.
I can. Like, okay, here's this really old iPhone. This is how bad it is.
Yeah.
This is one of my ongoing. I keep a list of hateful thoughts.
Right.
This is one of my ongoing issues, and one of my ongoing hateful thoughts is that I can't ever remember passwords.
Right.
They're always going to be one of 3 things, but God forbid you sign on to the or you try to sign on to the place that only allows you 2 tries.
Oh, because then you get kicked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You will see the
it's
very
like the worst
first
casino ever.
Look at all these notes on my little notepad here that I have.
Right.
And you will see the very first one says iTunes iPhone password. I had to put that in my phone so I could operate my phone.
Yeah. So really, I hope I didn't come off as ungrateful for your advice, Marcus, but I don't like Twitter. I look at it, and you know what I see when I go into Twitter? I see it doesn't make any sense to me. So many pictures and retweets and favorites.
Read what?
Retweets and favorites.
Do you have candy?
I do.
Okay.
Always. What a silly question.
Well, we're going to have to visit the candy.
We're going to visit the candy. But it doesn't work well in my head, so I don't care for the Twitter. But I know that if I write on Twitter, it comes on my Facebook as well. And that's the one thing that throws me off a little bit, because sometimes...
That's why Dan doesn't like to do the Twitter.
But he's not going to write on there that, like, hi, I'm Rob and I'm a stupid jerk.
No, but he doesn't like to post things on Twitter knowing that it's going to your Facebook, simply because you might be sort of promoting or talking about or having one of your evenings, and he doesn't want to interrupt.
He can always do it. I've told, how many times have I looked at him and said, Dan, touch my Twitter.
I know. It's actually true.
I do. And he blushes.
And he's like, I don't think so.
Yeah, but I'm going to try to do better.
Well, speaking of fan pages, you got a new fan page, SDM. I know.
America's favorite nudge.
That's right. He created a whole new fan page. So now there's a Cake and Cookies fan club out there on Facebook.
It's really happening.
I hope they are more active on their page than we are on ours.
You know, it's probably going to be
nice. Please be nice.
The longest thread on the Cake and Cookies website, Cake and Cookies fan page, is going to be, why don't they use Twitter?
Listen to the show.
Yeah, but that was very cool, and I like Steven quite a bit. He's a very nice guy, and God, they don't come any more truer and bluer when it comes to support. And he actually sent me a note. He says, well, I waited and waited and waited for someone else to do it, but I thought it was about time. So he set up our fan page. So thank you, SDM, for doing that.
I think it's cool. I actually walked into the basement today and said, well, Rob, we can stop doing the show now.
Yeah, because we got the fan page. We've accomplished everything we've set out to do.
It's downhill from here.
Katie, if this is peaking, you've got some low expectations on life.
That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah,
Set the bar low.
You two are just like peas and carrots.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of peas.
Oh gosh, are we at that time already?
Yeah, I've got a pee, so I've got to go. But thank you guys both for coming on the show. Katie, always a pleasure. You were so nice to me at OMearaCon, and I really didn't get to talk to you because you were so very busy.
I was a little busy. I apologize.
Just a tad.
I had a little more time. But good luck next week.
Thank you.
Everything is going to turn out just fine.
I'm sure it will. And I hope that we get to talk again. Rob, I hope that we can talk soon, because I'd like to talk more about music with you. I'd like to talk about some technical things. Not necessarily on OMearaCast.
I always enjoy taking your calls, and if I can just grab the reins for 1 second to you and to Steve, I've never missed an episode of this show. I love not only what you guys do for us, because it is such a labor of love that you are out there promoting what we do on the Mike O'Meara Show and on all the shows. But not just the fact that you do it, but you do it so well. And the amount of time that you put into it truly shows.
Absolutely.
And on behalf of everyone at More Broadcasting, which you are as well, thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys do such a great job, and we appreciate it.
He's going to make me cry.
Oh, don't cry. Nobody likes a cry.
I don't know. I think that's a category. I'm kind of into it.
There's no crying in podcasting.
You guys are great.
You guys are the best.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, guys. Keep up the great work, and you definitely have a wonderful show, and we will keep listening and keep bringing it up and keep promoting it, because it's the best.
It is.
Well, okay, second best.
No, best.
Second best. Okay, Steve says best.
All right, Oscar Felix, take this outside, okay?
I don't want Mike calling me up and complaining if I say it's the best.
Oh, you would take a call from Mike O'Meara no matter what. You'd love it.
If that guy he never calls me, but I will be speaking to him this week. And on that note, I will announce that Mike O'Meara will be on the very next OMearaCast. So
great.
I look forward to that particular conversation. We're going to have to get into his apparel, because that's come up on 2 shows now on the Mike O'Meara Show.
Yeah, it's Florida Mike.
His style seems to be very non-conducive for the Irishman, and might have to give him a little crap about the helmet thing.
I think he looks just like Hyman Roth down there. I think it's nice. Make sure everyone sees the cake before you cut it.
That's right. That's right. And he is getting. Have you noticed in his vocal, in his vocals, he's starting to sound like a Floridian in age.
Noticed. Really? You think it's smears on him? Boy, this is going to be a great episode next week. Bring that up first.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's gonna get you a lot of time with him on the air.
Here, let me write a question for you. Okay, and it goes like this. Mike, a lot of people have noticed that since you've moved to Florida, you seem more decrepit.
You even sound older.
Get off my lawn, you whippersnapper.
It'll be the shortest interview yet.
Click.
Click.
Mike?
I can hear it on the other. Click.
Mike? Mike? Let's try to get something must have happened.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what happened.
Change your Skype preferences.
Mike is apparently flatlined on America. All right.
No, exactly what would happen. You'd say, Mike, can you explain why it is you sound different? And then all of a sudden, she's gone! And that's the name of that tune.
It was a great show while it lasted.
It sure was. We all miss it.
Katie, give me all the particulars. If somebody is listening to OMearaCast and they haven't listened to Cake and Cookies yet for the first time, where can they go to get the show?
You can go to themikeomearashow.com and click on the media button. First one listed is Cake and Cookies, and that's our page. You can also find us on iTunes at Cake and Cookies. Just search More Broadcasting, and you can find TMOS, Tech 411, Rob and Joe, It's Mickey, and you all, OMearaCast. But that's those are the easiest ways to find us. You can find us through our Facebook page, despite how much or how not much we update it. We always check it.
And even though it might not be updated, the information is rather static and accurate.
Yeah, but it's facebook.com/Rob and Katie, and that's ROBBANDKATIE.
Well, thank you guys both. And last but not least, Rob, can you do me a favor and stop bringing Roberts, Robbies, Bobbies onto the network?
Yeah, my apologies. It's really a great name. It means shining star.
Shining many stars, apparently, on the network.
Well, that's why I wanted to call him Bobby, the new intern. And then it occurred to us much later the fact that his name really is Rob Ford, but ours doesn't smoke crack. Or does he?
Or does he?
Thank you, guys. We will talk to everybody next time. Thanks for listening to OMearaCast. You can follow us at facebook.com/OMearaCast or on Twitter at OMearaCast. Steve, thanks for hanging in and giggling.
I'm glad to be here.
You're always a big part of the show. And we will talk to everybody next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Mike O'Meara, Radio Entertainment.
And we are out.
Cool. Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, guys. You guys are fantastic. And the show is great. And, I mean, it is definitely a must-listen. And are you stopped with the Ustream, by the way?
I will right now.
Yeah.